Hello and welcome to another edition of the Fan Feud Cash or Trash video series. Today I'm Donnacha Brennan, Community Manager on fanfeud.co.uk. And today I'm joined by one of our writers, Callum Reid. He's a Chelsea fan, and it's been a pleasure working with him on the blog in this season. The guy we're going to discuss is actually Swansea midfielder Andre Ayew. As much as sometimes we have these cash or trash chats and we kind of have them with players that are on the kind of decline, Andre Ayew actually had one of his better weeks last week when he kind of made a lot of people's game weeks. But what I kind of actually, Andre Ayew has always been a player for me that we're kind of, I'm not really sure what way to trust him. He's playing for a team, Swansea City, who they've struggled in a lot of matches this season. So for that reason, he's had he's had a lot of kind of twos and ones and threes in his fantasy return. So for that reason, he's kind of been someone that I've been wary of, and I got rid of out of my own fantasy team, of my own FPL team, in about 6 or 7 weeks ago. But Column is going to basically run through the kind of the initial what he kind of thinks of Ayew as a player, and I'll kind of, if I have any counter argument, the idea behind Cash or Trash is that we kind of argue the pros and cons of every player, and we'd love to hear from you guys, the listeners and the viewers, what you guys think of the player we discuss. So Colin, over to you.
So I initially was the same. I got rid of Ayew a few weeks ago, but with the new appointment of Guadalin, I think is the pronunciation, he really interested me because he switched to a 4-3-1-2 system, and Ayew played up front alongside Bafétimbi Gomis with Sigurdsson behind him. Now, of course, as a midfielder on FPL, playing as a striker, he's got a lot better chance for a points return. He's further up the pitch. You can score more goals that way. And Sigurdsson's hitting a bit of form as well. So them two could get a link and then push Swansea further up the table because they need to get away from that relegation zone. But he does come in relatively cheap at 6.7 million. For a player of Ayew's quality, we've seen it throughout the season. He can produce goals and assists. It's 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 3 games. So he's certainly got the talent. And under a new manager, the confidence he's installing in the team could make Ayew a viable option on FPL again.
Yeah, I agree that, like I said, it's 10 points and 13 points. He's like, how many is it? 26 points in his last 3 games.
Yeah, 8.6 average per game.
Yeah, so he's really returning to form. I guess the kind of some difficulty people have had with him is that kind of stretch he had between, I think it was game week, what was that one? Let me see here. Game week 11 through 2. Sorry, this is great radio. Game week 11 through to actually game week 20. He had only, like, it was 2s and 3s, barring one game week return when he came up with 13 points. I guess his inconsistency, as you said there, Colin, he's been played as a forward, which in FPL should be gold for a midfielder when he's playing as a forward, because he does get into the box more often and stuff like that. I guess one thing that actually surprised me when I saw on his shots per game average, he's actually fairly low on his shots per game average, which is surprising when you look at where he's been played. He's only 1.7 shots per game when you compare them to like the likes of Payet, who'd be like 1.8 shots per game, or even say my man Arnautovic, which is on 1.9 shots per game. Now them numbers aren't shockingly high, but I would have expected a little bit more from Ayew. It'll be interesting to see if he does get his move to Sunderland, which I don't know whether he wants that or whether it's just the club are hoping to get him. Generally, you don't hear people bidding for players unless they've actually had the go-ahead from the player's agent, a bit of tapping up going on. But it would be interesting to see how he'd actually get on in Sunderland, because with Jermaine Defoe doing so well there, he could actually have a bit of a better opportunity to be more relevant. But I mean, if you're comparing him with like players like the likes of Arnie or like the likes of Payet, he is cheap. I mean, he's a little bit more expensive than Arnie, but he's cheaper than Payet. He's cheaper than say Wijnaldum, and he has a lower ownership rate as well. I mean, a 12.3 ownership rate when you compare it. The other guys are all like a little bit higher, they're 3 or 4% more. He was one of the kind of four the pillars of the template team earlier on in the season. But I think that a lot of them templates moved on from Ayew, so it's another kind of potential gain you could make on your mini league mates and in the general table. Is Ayew, he potentially could actually be a kind of really good guy looking at his fixtures coming up. He's got West Brom, he's got Palace, Southampton. They're three good fixtures that you could potentially garner a lot of. The Palace defence isn't what it was. It kind of has underperformed in the last few weeks, as anyone who owns Scott Dan or Hennessy indeed, or any of them guys from Crystal Palace will attest. But he's definitely someone that Ayew, I think, is somebody that people should really start looking at to get back into their team again. I'm a big guy for following the form, and like I said, they're the 26 points in 3 weeks. You can't really argue with that. I was looking at, even if you're comparing like with the other really form midfielders, like Firmino is top of the table in terms of the form chart the last 3 games. He's 33 points. But Ayew was right there in second position behind him on 26. And you're really looking at, if you're comparing them to an awful lot of kind of the big hitters, the guys you'd kind of hope to propel you on, like Payet or these guys. I mean, Payet came back with real fanfare, whereas Swansea City have been such a kind of a dredge of a team this season. They're really kind of struggled. That I think sometimes these unfashionable teams can be really, they can be places where you can find the cash. And in FanFeud's lineup, where we have, it's basically, for those of you who don't know, fanfeud.co.uk, we run, it's a 5-a-side fantasy football format whereby you only pick 5 players from each matchup. So like if Swansea City are playing against them guys, West Brom, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Andre Ayew definitely is somebody you should be picking in them 5-man formats. And he really, his returns recently, he looks like he's either playing for a move, which works out well for fantasy owners, or else he's basically coming into form at the time when Swansea kind of need him to. But either way, I think we're agreed, Callum, that he is fantasy gold, and he should really be owned by a lot more than 12.3%.
Yeah, I certainly think his ownership is going to rise in the coming weeks. Swansea, of course, knocked out the FA Cup. The FA Cup is this weekend, and the next game week 24, is actually a midweek game week. So with Swansea not playing on the weekend, Ayew is going to be fresh going to West Brom. Just another note on his fixtures. He does actually have in game week 27 and 28 Spurs and Arsenal away. But if you keep him around, after them games, he's got Norwich at home, Bournemouth away, and Aston Villa at home. And they're 3 games where Swansea and Ayew should really be looking to get a high points return. Looking at where he scored his goals, 8 of them have come inside the area. So maybe playing as a striker, it will see his goals tally increase.
So I guess what we should be probably thinking, actually talking about this, we probably would be better, actually, he'd be better if he was staying at Swansea. Do you agree, Callum?
Yeah, certainly.
For the fixture list that they have coming up, he has a great opportunity there to take on. I mean, in them 2 game weeks, one issue I guess with the one thing that was announced this morning was that the game week 27 will be the Liverpool, Everton, Man City, and Newcastle will be missing due to their cup fixtures, due to the Man City and Liverpool cup fixtures. They'll be missing for that week, which would mean they'll have double game weeks coming up. So one issue, I guess, with people who do own them in game week 27 is you're going to probably have to play them. Is it Tottenham or Arsenal? They're playing first. Tottenham away. And I mean, Tottenham away is a very difficult fixture. When I look at my rankings, and I have on my system whereby I work on how many points midfielders give up to opposition, or oppositions give up to opposition groups. Basically, Tottenham are right up there in the most difficult kind of fixture in the league. It
is worth keeping an eye on that Spurs defence, though. With Vertonghen out injured, it could start to deteriorate and concede more goals, but that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I was only actually speaking on FanFeud, the Twitter account. It was about that when the Vertonghen news broke, was that the potential of whether or not they'd move Eric Dyer back, it possibly move him back in defence, or whether they'd bring in one of the reserve central defenders. I think it could actually have a huge effect. I mean, as a central defender, as a Liverpool fan, trust me, we see the difference when you have an incompetent central defender partnership. it can really put the kind of cat amongst the pigeons and make people nervous in defence. What way do you kind of see that one going, Colin? Do you think what way do you think Spurs? I know you're a Chelsea man. How do you think Spurs are going to cope with this injury crisis?
I do think they will be fine. I know I've just said it's worth keeping an eye on, but Kenneth Vermeer, the guy that came in the summer, he's looked very comfortable in the games he's played in the Cup. He's played with 4 or 5 different partners, and every time he's done a more than adequate job. So I think him alongside Alderweireld and in keeping Dier.
That was a very good attempt at saying his name, Colin, there.
Keeping Dier in front, I think that's the way Pochettino's going to go. And unfortunately, I think that's gonna continue to solidify the Spurs defence.
Why is it that they can manage to get like useful centre halves? Liverpool, even some other clubs, even Man City, they've really struggled to kind of purchase actually halfway reasonable central defenders. We seem to kind of spend big money every single summer, and yet we seem to continuously come up with guys that just don't quite look the part. Whereas Spurs always seem to do great business in the transfer market. But I guess the main wrap up, guys, we'll have when we're talking about Ayew is get him in. And, with the fixtures he has coming up, and barring those 2 slight problems in the middle with Spurs and Arsenal, he really and truly has a great fixture list coming up, and we think definitely he's going to be the money. And on all of your FanFeud lineups, pick him. In FPL, get him in, because with that differential, that's the kind of thing you need to be looking at as your
price is only going to rise from 6.7.
Yeah, do you think because one thing is, with the price, so many people have money in the bank. Like, I mean, I got Sanchez in last week because I had so much money in the bank that I'm going to get him in a week early, because as people get him in, I wanted to get him in before the price increase came up. But there are so many kind of bargain guys that I think definitely people can afford to upgrade a little bit from their 5th midfielder and get in the likes of Ayew.
Well, I think if your plan is to bring in Aguero, then someone like Ayew, who could replace Kevin De Bruyne, who got injured last night, that could be the way to go forward to enable you to get Aguero.
That's a great shout, yeah, because everyone does need to get in Aguero realistically, to have any kind of shout. Because of his price tag, I guess he's a natural differential. Yeah, he'll never kind of have the ownership that you'll see in some of the bargain bucket guys who've been doing well so far this season. I guess that's where we'll wrap it up, guys. Colin, it was lovely having you on, and it was lovely having a chat. I've enjoyed everyone should check you out on our blog on FanFeud, on blog.fanfeud.co.uk. Where else do you write, Colin? You can give a little plug for your other work if you'd like while you're on the pod.
Over on fblbet.com, I do daily fantasy football tips and a weekly differential tips where I look at players below 5% ownership who could help you rise in the mini leagues. And then on fantasyfootballpundits.com, I write a captain's article where I give 4 captain tips of the week. 1 is a gamble, and a punt of the week, which unfortunately last week was Olivier Giroud, who, as we know, got taken off after 22 minutes.
That one didn't work out well, but Callum writes for us. He writes his captain tips where so you'll have and he generally kind of goes a little bit outside of the, you can recommend the top guys every single week, but it's kind of to go a little bit different. And last week it was a Gallo who worked out very well. I tipped actually in my differential. I have a differential article that I do on the blog as well. And I actually tipped Troy Deeney as a bit of a differential kind of guy to pick. Now, it wasn't a captain pick, it was but in terms of the matchup, it was a great shout, because Watford really had the plum matchup last week. And I know you got a bit of feedback from people saying no, you have to captain Lukaku. And I guess all them people, I'd imagine you got plenty of apology emails back after saying none of you are right. Yeah. That's not the way Twitter works realistically, is it? I guess that'll wrap us up for this week. If you'd let us know about any kind of player you'd like us to look at in the coming weeks, we'll be more than happy to look at that player and kind of discuss it. We're always wanting to improve this format, so if you have any kind of things you could suggest for us to improve on what we do, we'd be more than happy to hear from you. What I also recommend is this week on FanFeud, we've got a couple of big games and we put bonus in the pot on fanfeud.co.uk. If you've never tried it before, or if you're a kind of seasoned player, it's a really good shout to give it a go this week. We have a £40 pot bonus thrown in there. So on top of the money that's added by players, you'll have a chance to win that £40. Literally £3 to enter. Pick 5 players from each game, from any game. You can play one game, you can play all 10 of the games. But play them and see what you think. It's literally as simple as just picking 5 players. You're not going to be on there for an hour trying to select your lineup, goalkeepers and all this kind of stuff. You can pick any position, you can pick any from either team. The best 5 players wins the pot. Simple as that. So give it a go on fanfeud.co.uk. Thanks a mil for now, and goodbye from me and Callum. Bye.